Welcome, everyone, to SI Media with Jimmy Traina. Thank you so much for listening. We have a really outstanding episode for you this week. First time on the SI Media podcast with me, Jeff Passan from ESPN Baseball Insider, and he was phenomenal. A lot of talk about Woj retiring and the life of an MLB insider and the life of an insider across sports for ESPN. Jeff gives some great insight into that, shares some great Woj stories. And then we get into a lot of baseball topics, the popularity of baseball, the television issues with baseball, a little postseason talk. And you have to stay till the end to hear Jeff's story about having The Rock record his outgoing voicemail message back in the day. Following Jeff Passan, we have Sal Licata in our Traina Thoughts segment. We read some Apple reviews this week. So a lot going on in this episode. Before we get to it, quickly, if you missed any recent episodes of SI Media with Jimmy Traina, let me slow down. SI Media with Jimmy Traina. We've had a phenomenal run of guests. Brad Nessler from CBS, Kevin Clark from ESPN, Scott Van Pelt, Brian Curtis of The Ringer, Kirk Herbstreit, Chris Mad Dog Russo, all recent guests on SI Media with Jimmy Traina. If you missed any of those interviews, go into the archives, check them out. Subscribe to SI Media with Jimmy Traina, and please leave a review on Apple. Subscribing is most important, though. If you do that, I appreciate it. So give those a listen and enjoy this week's episode. It's really good. Jeff Passan from ESPN, followed by Sal Licata and Traina Thoughts. All right here, right now on SI Media with Jimmy Traina. All right, joining me now, long overdue, first time with me on SI Media with Jimmy Traina. He is ESPN's top MLB insider, and with the playoffs getting underway shortly, no one better to have on this week than Jeff Passan. Jeff, how's it going?
It's going great, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm well, and I'm glad we can finally do this. I had you booked and all ready to come on right before the season started, and that's when Sports Illustrated's old operator decided to try to burn the company down to the ground instead of helping with the transition to the new company. And it was the 1 week. I missed 1 week through the madness of the podcast. And of course, it was the week I had you booked. So I'm glad we can finally now do this.
I'm glad to see the Sports Illustrated banner still behind you. And yes, my very good friend, Greg Bishop, still extremely employed. It's the best part of this whole thing.
It certainly is. It certainly is. So like I said, baseball postseason's getting underway. I want to ask you some stuff about that and being ESPN's MLB insider. But I guess in a interesting bit of timing, it's great that I have you on this week because we just had the retirement of Woj and the final Woj bomb. And I know you got a byline on that story. You had some tweets. Obviously, he's the top NBA info guy. You're the top MLB info guy. So I just want to start there since it's still fresh. Let's start with this. Tell me about like your relationship with Woj, because based on what I saw on Twitter, I guess he was kind of a mentor for you, and tell me about your relationship with Woj over the years at ESPN since you've been there in 2019.
I've known Adrian since it was probably the summer of 2001, and he's going to kill me for telling this story, but it's so good and it makes me so happy. I was interning at the Newark Star-Ledger at the time. Woj was working at the Bergen Record at the time. And, people don't understand like how talented Adrian is and was back then as a writer. Like he was as good of a column writer, just like old school newspaper can absolutely scythe your head to the ground as anybody who was out there. It's like when you see Sally Jenkins at her best, that's like what Woj was like. But he reported too. So he was super talented at everything he did. And that summer, Will Allen had gotten drafted by the Giants. And I covered Will at Syracuse. And I don't know if you remember this, but some robbers went up to Will Allen, sprayed him with lighter fluid, and said, "We are going to light this match here unless you give us the jewelry that's on you." And so it's like you hear a story like that. It's I got to drive from Newark up to Syracuse and see if I can sit down with Will and talk with him. Well, Adrian had that idea before me. And he had gone up there earlier that day and he had sat down with Will Allen. And at the end of the day, um, he was like, "Hey, you're not going to talk with any other reporters, right? Because I don't think his column was supposed to run the next day." And Will was like, "No, no, don't worry about it." Well, I showed up and I found him outside his apartment and I went and I talked with him and I ran back. I stayed at I was at my friend's house filing with like a dial-up modem at like 9:30 this story to the New York Star Ledger, and it ran the next day. And Adrian, like his best friend, is Mike Vaccaro, the New York Post columnist now. And Vac at the time was the Ledger columnist. And I don't know if this was like the exact wording. I might be embellishing, but I'm pretty sure it was the next morning, Woj calling up Vac and saying, "Who the fuck is Jeff Passan?"
That's a great story.
To get on Woj's radar that way.
Yeah.
Like, I if I had to go head to head with Adrian on a daily basis, he would emasculate me because like he is the best. He really is. He is so extremely good at what he does.
So how did it, when did you start having any sort of relationship or get to know him? Because obviously if his first response to you is "Who the fuck is Jeff Passan?" How did we get to then? Was it when you started at ESPN? Fill in that blank.
No. I mean, we had run into each other because I had interned in Newark and Vac is a friend of mine. I think I met Woj through Vac, and Woj used to cover baseball and would come and write columns there. And we have, other mutual friends, Steve Politti at the Star Ledger. Like there was enough crossover where I got to know him and always just loved reading his work. Right. And then back in 2007, I believe it was, because I went to Yahoo in 2006 and it was like Dan Wetzel was there, Charles Robinson was there. We had some NASCAR drivers, and I think I was like the third from like the major NASCAR writers, rather. I think I was the third from like a major sport, though. And then Woj came the next year just to do basketball, and it didn't make any sense to me because why would somebody who's a general columnist just choose to focus on one sport? And it's clear why, because Adrian understood the internet and read tea leaves a lot better than 26-year-old me did, who could only see a couple years down the road and what his next job might look like. Woj understood that the internet was going to be a specialized area and that the days of the generalist, if not dead entirely, were starting to fade away along with the power of the daily newspaper. And his prescience there, I think, is what is so underappreciated about him. He got it before everyone.
Yeah,
he understood where things were going and was able to carve this path based on that inherent understanding.
Yeah, I mean, that I'm thinking back to that time when he was at Yahoo. If you didn't see where it was going, you were in trouble. So that the fact that he caught on to that. And then when you got to ESPN, was in terms of you becoming their top baseball insider, was he a mentor in any way? Did he give you advice?
Yeah.
Did you pick up things from him?
I think, I think mentor is probably the right way to put it. And I hesitated because it's like, I think he sees me and I see him as a peer. And I don't want to say he's a mentor because he's a few years older than me. Right. But I think he's somebody whose opinion I deeply respect and whose work ethic is unassailable and who was integral in me going to ESPN, by the way. Like he pushed for me and he said, like, if you want on baseball what we've got on basketball, then you need to hire Jeff. And I can not be thankful enough for his support and his friendship. He's been really, really good to me. And, even like when, like I got hit by a tree last year and I'm in the hospital and Woj is like the first person to reach out and say, hey, like, here is something for your family. to like help take care of them
Wow.
and help them through this. Yeah, it's just like he has been a tremendous friend, and his support is it's the best. It really is. Like you hope you have friends like Adrian.
I had the tree thing on my list of notes to get into. We'll save it for a little later because I just want to stay on the Woj topic, but we will get to the tree. There were there were two things in doing. I knew about the tree incident because I remember when the tree incident happened. When it first came out, the details were kind of vague, and I was like, I would love to have him on because this sounds batshit crazy. And I'm like, I don't know Jeff. I've never had him on. Should I send an email saying you want to come on and talk about a tree falling on you? So I showed restraint with that one. And the other thing
was probably a good idea.
Yeah. The other thing
don't be the ambulance chaser. Yeah, you don't want to be that guy.
I just, when I saw the story, I was like, it sort of like came. It wasn't. I don't remember it being a huge deal, and I'm like, wait, what? But I left it alone. I'm glad I did that. And the other thing in doing a little research for the podcast, you mentioned Woj just being a few years older than you. I was blown away when I saw your age. I thought you were like 29 to 31. So that's a compliment. So take that.
Thank you.
I
have a 17-year-old. Like that's where
blown away when I saw that. So I wanted to get that in.
Thank you.
One of the things that came about last week with Woj announcing his retirement from sports media was there was sort of a bleak picture painted about the life of an insider. I mean, listen, for those of us in sports media, I think we knew that if you are a quote unquote insider, you're on your phone for, whatever it is, 15 hours a day. Adam Schefter went on ESPN and made it sound like it's, this really just horrific thing. So I want to give you a chance. Schefter was saying you got to put your phone in the shower and all this stuff.
That is true.
Tell me your experience as the life of what your experience is like for the life of an insider.
I think sometimes when we talk about our jobs in honest terms, it can come off seeming like we're inflating just how difficult they are. I think if you asked Adam Schefter or myself or Adrian at the end of the day, do you love your job? The answer is unequivocally yes. And look, we cover sports. We get to go, I get to go into baseball clubhouses and talk with players about their lives and their crafts and tell stories that reach millions of people and can have profound impacts on people. With this phone that I'm holding right here, I have a direct conduit to well over 1 million people. And, depending on the traction that whatever I write gets, upward of 5, 10, 20, maybe even more. To sit here and suggest that what we do is in any way anything short of awesome would be a mischaracterization. But there are sacrifices that come with it, the same sorts of sacrifices that plenty of working people make all the time, but maybe not to the same extent. A really hard job for 8 hours is 8 hours, right? You have your other 16. You can separate yourself from work. It's just that we're never off. There is no downtime. Vacations are very rare. And that's the price that we pay for this job. That is the consequence of getting to be involved in sports at the level we are and having the responsibility to be the people who deliver the news to the wide swath of people for whom sports is the most important thing in their lives. And so it is a duty, but it is also a privilege. And it's the balance of those things, I think, that allow us to come back, despite some of the things that we may be giving up, to come back and do this in as healthy a manner as we can. And, Adrian was tired, and I don't blame him because it's the sort of job, Jimmy, that can suck the life out of you because the demands never cease. That's the part about it. News doesn't stop. And when news doesn't stop, neither do you. So I think there is a finite amount of time to do this job, do it well, and do it in a place that keeps you happy.
It is interesting because when that tweet came about from Woj, I was shocked and not shocked. Like, you were just shocked because here it is, it's whatever it was, a Tuesday morning, and here's Woj saying he's done with sports media. But again, maybe because I'm in the business and I know what goes. I was not like, it's not surprising to me someone would want to have some of their life back. And if you're making good money and you're able to make that money for several years, then yeah, go. So it wasn't after the initial shock of like, holy shit, what just happened? It's not that shocking. So the phone in the shower is true.
Yes. I broke, it was the Nick York Quinn Priester trade. I was at the Courtyard in Bristol for the trade deadline, and it's a great shower to put your phone in because there's like a ledge that's away from the steam, and these are all things, by the way, that we consider. Like when my house, we renovated like a house built in the 50s, and part of the construction of the bathroom was making sure that there's a place to keep the phone in the shower.
And I've noticed more and more restaurants will have a place for the phone at the urinals. They'll have like a little, I don't think they're for insiders breaking trades. I think they're for people who have nowhere to put their phone while they're taking a leak. But this is becoming something else that's going on now.
I don't like that, by the way. Like the general proliferation of bad phone behavior really bothers me. Like, I understand that my phone behavior is first percentile, just absolutely abominable. But the normalization, for example, of playing your phone with video and not having headphones on. Yeah. I know I sound like an old person now, but I am okay to die on this hill. Yeah. The normalization of looking at your phone when you're taking a leak. Like, come on, bro. Yeah. It's not that important. It's not that funny. It's not that good.
Right. So you'll break a trade in the shower. You won't break a trade at the urinal.
Oh, I'd break a trade at the toilet for sure. No. Like, let's be very clear here. I have no qualms about my phone usage hypocrisy. Right, I'm just saying for normal society, like, I'm giving myself a special dispensation because I think we've made it clear to this point that I'm not proud. But it's the necessity and duty of the job. I mean, if you're going to take it into the shower, you might as well take it into the pisser.
That's
right?
True. That is true. That's fair. Listen,
just wash your hands and make sure to go around with some wipes in your pocket.
How many phones do you have? Just one?
I have a second phone that I use infrequently. I have a second phone that I will use for the most paranoid sources.
Well, I was just going to. Oh, okay. That's interesting for the most part. Okay.
Yes.
So I was going to say, I would also imagine part of your life as an insider with the phones is just constant fear of running out of battery.
No, I'm pretty good with that, actually. Okay. Like, I always have a charger, and if I'm sitting down at my computer, I'm always plugged in. Like, getting down low on battery tends not to happen very often.
So a second phone for sources who are a little paranoid. That's fascinating.
Well, because, if, let's say, you've got a boss who's going to check phone records, right. Every GM, team president, whatever it may be, has my phone number, and they can look it up, but they do not have the other one.
Got it. That's fascinating. So you mentioned you did break a trade while you were in the shower. Is that the craziest place you've ever broken news, or have you? I mean, I bet there's got to be something crazier than that.
I think my favorite. Let me see if I can look up this photo while telling you the story. It was right after the lockout ended, and so this is back in 2022, and lockout ends, and it was like there was a deluge of moves because they hadn't been able to do any transactions, either trades or free agent signings, for 100 days. And I made sure to take a picture of precisely where I was when I broke the Matt Olson trade. And it was
You're at a nightclub?
Let's do this. No, it looks like a nightclub. Let me change my background here. I don't know if I have enough Zoom skills to do this, but let me change it because it's sort of. Okay, let's unblur my background. This is in line for a roller coaster at Universal down in Florida with my children because I didn't think the lockout was gonna stretch into
Oh,
like
wow.
mid-March, so
Right.
I scheduled a vacation, and it had been a long time since I'd gone anywhere with my kids, so we went down to Disney, and that day we went to Universal, and it was that ride that like launches you up immediately into the air, like
Yeah.
200 feet, and I was afraid that I wasn't going to get the go ahead to go from my source until like we were like suspending gravity in the air and that I was going to lose my phone and it was going to be a complete nightmare. So I was happy to get it done there, but that I think that probably takes the cake.
The only thing that would have made it better is if you were actually on the roller coaster upside down when you sent out the
Right.
tweet.
Like a good one this year was like I was down in the Dominican Republic. My son's high school baseball team was playing down there for spring break, and we were out at like this old sugarcane village. Just it was in addition to being a baseball trip, it was like a service trip, and there was no reception out there. So I got the Dylan Cease trade when I was down there and had to run and just constantly look at my phone trying to figure out, do I have enough bars to get this tweet through and to call up my news desk?
All right. Believe it or not, the holiday season is coming and you want to make sure you are in shape and optimizing your health before those days hit. You can fuel up for those days with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for the holiday season thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes, so no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have flavors to explore. You can also keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in just 2 minutes. No shopping, no prepping, no cooking, or cleaning up. Head to factormeals.com/SImedia50 and use code SImedia50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code SImedia50 at factormeals.com/SImedia50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. All right, let me tell you guys about Underdog Fantasy. It's the greatest time of the year. Football is back, and it's here to stay till February. You can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite player's stats, touchdown passes, passing yards, rushing yards, all that and more on Underdog Fantasy. If you go to Underdog Fantasy, you'll see that it is very, very easy to use. Very, very smooth, very, very fun. All you do, higher or lower on player stats. You can make picks on Underdog, and it's very straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog, simply use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code Sports Illustrated, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Sports Illustrated to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. You must be 18 or older, 21 in Massachusetts and Arizona, 19 in Alabama and Nebraska, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. If you're concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. Go play Underdog Fantasy. When you're breaking a big story, I'm talking a big story that you know is going to send some shockwaves. Mm-hmm. Are there any nerves when you hit send?
Yes. Every time.
Every time.
Every single time. Because I think over the last, just in terms of news, I think over like the last 4 or 5 years, I have like 100% hit rate on accuracy. Like it's been a long time. I just totally fucked myself by saying that, by the way. But it's been a
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've had something that was wrong. And I'm
you didn't
just
do
always
you didn't do arson judge to the Giants.
I did not. I did
Okay,
not.
had to throw that in.
Um, and even though when I know I'm right, I'm still always afraid that it's going to be that one time where, it's like it has become less and less fear, I
Hmm.
think, because the more prominent I've gotten in the industry, I think the less likely I've gotten to being lied to. Like, I don't think people straight up lie to me anymore because they understand that I'm going to figure out the truth and going to
Right.
figure out reality, and that using me is probably not an intelligent thing to do. Um, and so I still though, like what happens? So there was a trade earlier this year where I got a text from somebody who in the past had not given me news. And I said to the person, "Can you please call me? I want to make sure that this is you." Because I thought to myself, what if someone got their phone and was messing around with me? Like that is how much I still fear getting things wrong,
Right.
because what is an insider if he or she does not have credibility and accuracy? And those two things run parallel paths.
Yeah.
Like the second I start missing stuff, my credibility goes away. The second my credibility goes away, no longer am I a voice that people understand. When something pops up on their phone, it's right. And so it's that nightmare every time playing out that you're wrong. And it is bound to happen because no one can do it for extended full periods of time without it happening. But I still get the butterflies.
Take it from me. You should worry a little less. You're up there as in terms of credibility. You're at the top. I don't. There's no one's questioning your credibility. I can tell you that from being in this. So,
I
like I said,
appreciate that.
there's no arson judge to the Giants in your history. So,
Yeah, but what if there is? You know,
but there isn't right now. So
there
go.
isn't. That's true. But
Don't put it out there. Don't put it out there.
it is the fear of that happening, because it can happen
Yeah.
to the best or the worst of us.
Yeah, for sure. One last thing on this sort of Woj insider thing, and then we'll go on to some MLB topics. This is really inside sports media, and you have to be a loser like me to care about this. But since I have you, I have to ask. I was fascinated. My fascination with Woj retiring went away quickly because I was fascinated by how ESPN came up with a story that had a byline of you, Schefter, and Pete Thamel. How does that happen, and why?
Um, I think that it was a fitting send off for our friend, our colleague, and that the three of us together combining on that was an acknowledgement to this person who had a really great influence on all of our lives, that we're proud of him. And like having a little piece of that and being involved in a small way was an honor, because the man has distinguished himself in all kinds of ways, is beloved with all kinds of people, and changed the business. And for us, the ones who are left still doing the job, to have like not just to have a part of that, but to get to have a byline together when there is no other scenario that will bring us together
Right.
ever. It reminded me a lot of COVID, this was before Pete came on, but when Adam, Adrian, and I would go on like Get Up or Sports Center, and they would have the box with the three of us next to each other. And I look back on that now, and it's like, I don't belong there. Like, I'm cosplaying here next to this. Like, these are the guys who set the standard on what this job looks like. And if I can have success and respect and be regarded by the people who care about baseball and read about baseball to the same level that they are, then I'll feel like I've done well.
Okay. Let's talk about some MLB talk. Now, I'm just curious. So we've been doing this now for like 25 minutes. Is your phone buzzing? Like, are you nervous that you're going to miss like some news when you do something?
Oh, I have no problem hanging up on you if so.
Okay, good. All right. I know, I don't know if you're going to do this, but there are ways to spin things. So I'm going to make a statement. Maybe you won't agree. That's how I feel. We'll see. We'll go from there. Because it bothers me as a baseball fan. Does it bother you as someone in the baseball business that the sport is not more popular than it is?
Yes.
At this current time?
Yes.
What? Because I know, like, for me, Paul Skeens, Ailey De La Cruz, like, why can't we get these players to sort of become part of the sports culture that people get into and want to watch? Because, I just named two, but there's plenty others. Is it a marketing thing? Is it because football is so popular? Is it because we live in a time where everything is so fractured and you're competing with phones and social media? Give me your whole spin on it.
I mean, yes, like you hit on a number of things there. The NFL is such a monopolistic Goliath in American sports culture that I think it's really hard for any sport to compete. The NBA does the best job in college football. College football is pretty close. It's like it's the little brother, but it does a reasonable facsimile. But the NFL is a behemoth, and where I think like our bifurcated culture comes back is that people only have enough time for expertise in a few areas, and that investing in a sport is a really, really deep investment that you have to make to understand it, to discuss it, and to know it. And I think, like ball knowledge, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, whether it's baseball, the expectation of fans, particularly fans who spend a lot of time patrolling the internet, is that you have to have a specific level of knowledge of that sport in order to participate in the discussion. And baseball's a really hard sport to understand and to know and to learn and to be a part of. And picking it up, if you don't pick it up when you're young, it's a tough sport to pick up now and to connect to. And I think the game itself, Jimmy, is better than it's been in a really long time. I think the stars are there. I think the
pitch clock
was
it.
Yes, the pitch clock was a godsend for baseball.
Yep.
And more people are going to the game right now. Right?
Yeah, I know.
So you do have more fans. But man, is that enough?
Yeah.
Like, is that enough to have long-term resonance in a sporting area that I worry media-wise is actually going to be shrinking and concentrating its resources even more in the tried and true sports that work on TV and less on ones like baseball?
Yeah, it's tough because it's one of those things you don't know what the answers are. I hate any comparison to the NFL because for one simple reason. If baseball played a season that was 16 games, it'd be way more popular too. When you play 16 games and you're a fan, you're there for every game because it's not that much of a chore. 162 games, it's a whole different. So it's really the comparison to sort of the NBA and NHL, I guess.
Well, but, you know what it is, man. Baseball's a novel, and the NFL is TikTok.
Yeah. Because when the playoffs do start, there's nothing like baseball.
I mean, I think so. I was talking with Kyle Schwarber last week about it. I got a story on Bryce Harper that's going to be coming out soon. And the way that Schwarber was talking with reverence about the playoffs, it's almost like I want to take all that and just write its own unique story because I think he has such a a warm and healthy perspective on why playoff baseball is great. But yes, here's the thing though. Isn't playoff hockey awesome? It is. And isn't NBA finals phenomenal? Usually is.
Not like baseball.
Listen, you're preaching to the choir here.
And I love the NBA. I love the NBA. I watch every second of the playoffs, but you can't compare it to a 2-2 game in the 8th inning. There's nothing, I mean, if a game is 90-90 in the final 2 minutes, still not like a baseball game that's 2-2 in the 8th inning. I do think, this is a sports media podcast, so maybe I'm staying in my lane, and I don't know how deep you want to get into it, but I do think the TV issue is a big one for baseball.
It's huge.
And I don't mean this as a negative on your company, but I wish your company's scaling back. I wish ESPN would go more into baseball. Last week, for instance, Ohtani, that game where he got the 50th home run and he was 6 for 6.
Mm-hmm.
If you know that guy is leading up to this 50th home run, how is it not on national? His game should have been on national TV every day leading up to that.
I don't disagree with you on that.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that's where Major League Baseball needs to use its inventory a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
Like if it has partners who are willing to distribute, or if it is okay giving that game away for you want to like entice people to buy a whole sport package, which is what Major League Baseball is trying to go toward a couple years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
How about you give away those games for free? How about we don't have blackouts? How about you make accessing Bally's games a little bit easier than it is right now? It's a shame how difficult it is for consumers to access a product. And when that product is literally everything you have, what does that say about where the way that you are treating the fan, the respect level that you have for the people who want to pay you, who want to watch this, and you're not going out of your way and bending over backward to absolutely fire hose it into their house, into their phone, into everything? It's a wasted opportunity.
Absolutely. Well said. I'm not going to go on my streaming rant because I know my listeners are sick of me going on my streaming rants, but as a Yankee fan, I mean, it takes me 10 minutes to find the games every night.
Let me ask you.
And I'm in sports media.
Do you watch the Amazon games?
I refuse.
I know. Trust me. Based on
I have Amazon Prime. Because whenever I say this,
Jimmy, you're not the only one who's refusing.
Yeah, no, I just want to be clear because whenever I say that, I get assholes going, "Why can't you afford Prime? You work for..." I have Prime. I have it. But there's no way I'm going to start with Prime, Apple TV, and Roku. There's 162 games. If I miss 25 games, I'm fine. That's how I feel.
And some people aren't, and that's okay. Like I am all for fans fanning the way that they want to. I think one great thing about the modern media landscape is that you have options. You have the ability to be a fan who can be casual. You can be casual plus social. You can be social plus occasional games. You can craft your package of fandom any way that you want. But it's incumbent on the sport to allow you to do that.
I've never heard it put that way, and I think that's brilliant. Casual plus social, like that's really where we're headed. The way you broke it down right there, especially in baseball.
It's like an individual bundling. You can bundle your sports fandom however you want.
I cut you off there. Were you hinting that you know the Yankee numbers on Amazon?
I don't know them specifically. I do know that they are lower than they are on Yes.
Oh, of course. Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Like lower.
Good. Get what you deserve. And I would love to. I said this on Twitter. Someone tweeted something about, oh my God, I forgot what the tweet was, but I responded to someone and said I would pay to get the Roku numbers for viewership. I would pay money to see what those are. Sunday morning at 11 o'clock on Roku.
I think we can acknowledge the answer is not good.
Right.
Like quite not good. Right. And that's where Major League Baseball, I think, is facing It's not an existential crisis, right?
Yeah.
Because we've been going away from a nationalized sport of baseball for a long time now. The local numbers, like local viewership numbers, are
Right.
good, man.
Yeah.
They are. And
Well,
so if baseball can be just a parochial sport, I don't see shame in that.
right.
Like in the same way that our politics ultimately is local, I think baseball is local in that exact same way. You don't have to care about the national landscape to love your team locally.
Yeah. And that's what makes it tough, I think, is there are local markets that I know those RSNs are all in trouble, but then you have the Yankees on Yes, or you have the Red Sox on NESN, the Mets are on NESN that do very well. So again, it's how do you keep everyone happy? How do you satisfy everyone? I'm not saying it's so easy for baseball to fix this problem. It is tough.
No, it's not. It's not easy at all.
Yeah.
But it should. Where it starts is you have stars and you make them household names.
Right. Like what aggravated me about the Ohtani thing was, okay, in an ideal world, ESPN puts that game on because if it's on ESPN, that's what's going to get it the most eyeballs. Okay, so ESPN can't do it. Baseball has its own network. You have your own network. How's that game not on your own network? Like, I don't get it.
Or, I mean, that said, though, Jimmy, remember 2 years ago, we started cutting in for at bats with Aaron Judge when he was chasing Roger Maris. And the blowback on that, like
it was a college football game you interrupted, and those people are nuts.
They did not like that. Do not mess with my football, especially.
No, because I defended ESPN about that, and then I got destroyed on Twitter by all the college football fans.
Correct. Yep. Whatever. Hey, listen, we're of the same mind here. To me, more baseball is always better.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. And how refreshing is that? With the fees and taxes that we all get hit with in our cell phone bills, it adds up, and you don't know what you're paying for. But that's not the case with Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/SI Media. That's mintmobile.com/SI Media. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/SI Media. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes and fees and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. If Rod Manfred has to take a 1-day leave of absence and you're in charge and you're commissioner for a day and you can do 3 things, anything you want for the sport of Major League Baseball, give me 3 things you would do. Anything, it could be TV, it could be on the field, whatever you want.
Yeah, the first thing I do is I cut down every pitching staff to 11 pitchers. By taking it to 11 pitchers, you are going to, and this would be a transition over time, by the way. It would take a couple of years, but the idea behind this is to reemphasize the starting pitcher and simultaneously to bring down the level of stuff that's coming from starting pitchers who, frankly, don't throw innings anymore. Number one, in baseball, you have half the player population that is essentially automatically exempt from stardom because of the way that they are used. The way that starting pitchers are used now with 5 or 6 or maybe, if you're lucky, 7 innings at a time. It just does not allow for the starting pitching matchup to be the marquee thing of the day anymore. I want Paul Skeens to be incentivized to throw 9 innings. I want Garrett Cole to go out there and throw 9 innings. And if you have 11 pitchers on the staff, then it will force starting pitchers to try and go deeper into games because your bullpen is going to be wrecked if you don't. And the only way they're going to go deeper into games is by throwing with a little bit less intent, a little bit less velocity, a little bit less emphasis on spin, which will allow hitters to catch up and to take the batting average that across the sport right now is at 243 and the on-base percentage at 312 and the slugging percentage at 400 and add more offense organically back into the game rather than doing it through other sorts of means that could have unintended consequences. So I think that is an elegant solution. Number two, as part of the collective bargaining agreement with the Major League Baseball Players Association, I would give something up, and I don't know what it is. There are a million things the players could ask for. I would give something up for increased participation from players in the sale of the game. And by the sale of the game, I mean to the public. I understand that in the NBA and in the NFL and in the NHL, there is incentive for the players to see the league's revenues grow because they are capped sports and they get a particular percentage of the revenue. Like that revenue percentage is baked into the collective bargaining agreement. In baseball, it's no such thing. And so the incentive to partner with the league on efforts that could make the pie bigger for everyone just isn't there with baseball players. And I think we have an era, Jimmy, of baseball players who are growing up right now where they have been around for most of their lives with social media. And so they understand the value of personal branding and of the ability to go out there and sell yourself. And it's no longer like, the guy who does that is kind of shunned in the clubhouse. No, that is seen as a positive right now. And so I think baseball players being involved in the marketing of the game more than they are and like leading specifically with that would go a long way. And then I think this will never happen because Rob Manfred has proven through like the handling of the John Fisher situation in Oakland that, standing up to owners is not something he's going to do. But I would do everything I could to get rid of owners who have no intention of being competitive. It is a pox on baseball. It is a pox on the Chicago White Sox. It is a pox on the Pittsburgh Pirates. It is a pox on the Oakland A's. And there are a number of other organizations out there whose ownership is holding them back more than anything else. And if you can't find 30 extremely rich people who are competitive and who lead with their competitiveness, you're just not looking in the right places.
I think that's the one that people won't talk about enough just look at what the Pirates just did with Rowdy Tellez. You're cutting a player with 6 games left in this season.
Here's the thing. It's a small thing, man. Like it's $200,000. Well, but it's the principle. And beyond that, here's what it should be. Rowdy Tellez never should have gotten to 421 plate appearances in the first place because if you were a team that actively cared about the quality of your major league roster, you would have gone about upgrading from him before that.
Right. Well, my thing with that story is when I first saw the story on your Twitter account, I thought, okay, well, he got screwed. That's a shitty thing to do. And then my second thought was, I don't care how bad your situation is as an MLB owner with attendance or this or that. There's no way, I will never believe that you can be an MLB team owner and need $200,000 that badly. We're not talking about millions. Even if you have the worst TV deal, the worst attendance, you're still selling tickets. You're still selling concessions. You have a local TV deal. You cannot need, I'm not trying to say it's nothing, but to a baseball owner, that should be nothing.
Here's my problem with that logic, right? And this is the same reason that I don't necessarily like spending owners' money specifically. What's the threshold for when it suddenly becomes an amount that billionaires should be quibbling over versus not?
And here's my pushback. Why I don't like that argument. Because to me, there is no threshold. You take it on go case by case, because this doesn't happen. This is a very irregular thing that someone gets cut with 6 games left in the season. In this case, give the guy his $200,000.
Yeah, listen, we're 100% in agreement on that, because the reality is Pat McAfee talking badly about your organization is more than $200,000 worth of damage.
Exactly. Well, although the owner probably doesn't care.
Maybe the owner doesn't care, but he should.
Right.
Like, maybe that's the problem.
Well, I feel bad for the players and the front office that has to deal. You know, I'm sure the GM didn't want to do this. I'm sure the manager didn't want to do this.
Yeah, and then they have to go out and wear it publicly. Like there are things that every front office, Pirates included, does wrong. But I think, like, if you are the Pirates front office right now, and this is something that you are doing or that you have been mandated to do, you can't go out and give like the actual reason for it. Yeah. It's like the unspoken, thing that sometimes executives have to take bullets. Like that's, Don Draper said, that's what the money's for.
Right. All right. I'm going to run through some like quick topics here. Just quick hitters. And then I just want to get into the tree in WWE. What a teaser that is. Ohtani, is this the greatest season you've ever witnessed from a player or no?
No, Aaron Judge is having a better season than Ohtani.
Oh, my next question. I can't. My next thing was going to be: isn't Aaron Judge having a better season? As a Yankee fan, I had to say that. So I'm glad you said it. Glad you said it. You grew up Indians Guardians fan.
I did.
For me, when I stopped caring about the Hall of Fame in any way, shape, or form was when I realized Albert Bell was not going to get in because he wasn't nice to the writers.
Albert Bell didn't get in because he didn't have the counting stats.
He did not. You don't think Albert Bell has Hall of Fame stats?
I do not. No.
Oh my!
I was
God.
Also when I voted, I was a small hall guy. But no, Albert Bell in an era like, dude, he was like in the middle of the steroid era, and he didn't get 400 home runs.
But what if you compare him to other people? Like, Albert Bell was about 1 billion times better than Kirby Puckett.
Yes, Kirby Puckett got in because writers liked him, and
right. Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
okay.
he did. Albert Bell didn't get in because he retired at 33, and because he was a peak guy. But in order to get into the Hall of Fame, you tend to have to be a peak and volume guy. And, for me, that's how I looked at it. Unless you are Sandy Koufax, or if Ohtani retires after 10 years, for example, like those are peak guys who I would put in on short peaks. But Albert Bell played only like a dozen years.
That should be enough. No?
Dude, like his 50, he had the original 50-50 season.
Right.
This is when I was at summer camp, like summer of 95, and Albert Bell had 52 doubles and 50 home runs. That was the 50-50 back in the day. Yeah,
for sure. Juan Soto, where is he going to sign in the offseason?
I think he stays with the Yankees, but I will be very curious to see which teams bid more, because I'm not sure that the Yankees are going to be the highest offer.
Oh, don't get me started on the Yankees. They have the Amazon money for Wednesday nights. They should be able to sign one.
You know what else they have? They have New York Yankee money. Like,
right, exactly.
Exactly. That should be enough.
We're taping this before the playoffs are set, but I don't think that'll affect your answer on this question. Give me what you think the World Series matchup will be.
Philadelphia and Houston.
Oh, if Houston eliminates the Yankees again, I'm going to go crazy about it.
Let me ask you this: Do you trust the Yankees?
No, I think. Well, now it came out while we were taping this. I'm sure you saw it on your. Cortez is hurt.
Yeah, he's not.
And Cole is not Cole. He's still good. I'm not knocking him, but the Cole we've seen the last couple of years is not what he is.
He has not been Cy Young Cole this year,
and they don't have a closer. So when that happens, you have problems. No, they get spooked by Houston. If they play Houston, listen. If they play the Royals or the Tigers, I think we'll be fine. Although the Tigers, but if they play Houston, there's going to be some problems there. Last one on you. Do you have any aspiration? Do you want to call games ever? Do you want to be in a booth? Do you want to? None of that. Okay.
You know what? I need to learn more to be in a booth. I would
Got it.
not. I would not be good at play by play.
Right.
Like I see, to me, the best skill that I've learned being involved in TV that I never understood beforehand was broadcasters' ability to get timing right. When someone's counting in my ear,
Yeah.
it completely screws me up. And it's like one of those things where I'm going to start counting along with you. Like I still haven't figured out how to separate my brain into two so that
Yeah.
I can understand what he's saying, but not go and repeat it. Or understand what she's telling me and not completely get like mealy mouthed on air. And so hosting like a show makes me kind of neurotic, and
Hmm.
I have so much respect for what Malika Andrews has done.
Mhm.
Like her ability to transition from a reporter
Yeah.
into not just like a competent host, but an excellent host. It's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
She's really good. And see, like Field Yates will do it sometimes too. Like the people who have that skill, who aren't trained or haven't been doing that for years, blows my mind.
All right. So, like I said, when that story about the tree came out, I was blown away that there wasn't like, I was like, how is this guy? What is he okay? Like it was very vague when it came out. I'm sure you've probably told the story on other podcasts. I don't know how often, but like, are you fully recovered? Was there permanent? Like, what exactly? A tree limb fell on your back? Is that what it was?
It yes. So
Okay.
I live in suburban Kansas City now,
Okay.
and it's a place called Prairie Village. And so you can imagine in Prairie Village,
Mhm.
very large trees, very bucolic. It's a beautiful place. And we had a storm come through, and I have a massive oak tree in the front yard, like 80 to 100 feet tall, somewhere in that vicinity. And like the storm blew a branch off it. And when I say branch, this is not a little twiggy you're going to find on the ground. I mean, this thing, like the circumference was in feet. Like it's a tree. It was like
Right.
essentially a tree that fell off of a tree.
Did you see it coming?
Well, I mean, I'm not a moron. I'm not going to stand outside during a storm, right?
Right.
So I'm taking this all in from the comfort of my home and being like, thank God that didn't hit us. Like we got very lucky. It did, however, hit my neighbor's car. And so when we went outside to help clean up, my neighbor took a chainsaw and was cutting branches, and a weight bearing branch was cut, which caused the very tall and large limb to roll. And it rolled, and I could not get out of the way in time, and it hit me and pinned me to the ground.
Oh my God. That's crazier than I was expecting you to be outside and a piece of a tree fell from the sky and hit
I mean,
you.
I'm an
That's-
asshole, but not that dumb.
Well, that's not dumb if it's behind you or it's.
Yeah, but who goes outside? Who goes outside in a storm? Like
I didn't realize it was a storm. I thought maybe it was just okay. I tell you, when we had Hurricane Sandy here. I remember the day after driving around my neighborhood, and I saw in the neighborhood a tree that had fell onto a car.
Yes.
I mean, that is just. I mean, scary when you see it. It's even just seeing it is terrifying.
I mean, it was terrifying, and when you get hit, it's like, am I paralyzed? I mean, I remember like I clawed my fingers into the ground and pulled myself out.
Oh my God!
And I stood up, and I was like, thank God my legs are working. But I knew something was very bad, and adrenaline. Like I walked inside my house, I walked upstairs, I grabbed a suitcase, I threw in like. I'm a very pragmatic person.
Seriously.
And so I knew I had probably 2 minutes of adrenaline before the pain like really sunk in. And in those 2 minutes, I needed to get a bag together because I knew I was going to the hospital and was probably going to be there for a while.
Wow. How long were you in the hospital?
I think it was 4 days before I got released.
You're all good? Is there any permanent, like everything's good? You're healed? Or do you have like, oh, I'm sore when I do this?
It's sore occasionally, but I'm also 44. So that I don't know if it's one or the other.
Right.
I mean, I can do things athletically. I can still, I can still run. I can still golf. Um, my children laugh at me because I started at like 5'9" and I'm probably like 5'8.5" now. Like the vertebrae that got
Yeah.
broken,
Yeah.
it was a compression fracture. And so literally like it was a rectangle that's gotten squished. And so I
Wow.
am shorter than I once was. And my older son is 6'1", and what he'll do is whenever I'm saying like whenever I'm telling him like you need to do something, being a dad, he will walk up to me, stand in front of me, look down, and say 5'9", because he's it's that's what I get. Like
That's yeah.
when you can kind of be a dick to people on Twitter sometimes. If you can't take it when it's coming back at you, then
Right. Right. I'm not gonna be started on Twitter. I don't. I don't know how people like you, who have like over 1 million followers. I don't know how you do it. I just don't know how you do it. But it's a whole
which
other
part?
issue.
This is interesting to me. What
Well,
part don't you know how we do?
I assume you don't read your mentions.
I do.
You
Absolutely.
do?
Yeah, for sure. There's
And
because quite often in there's insight that I would not have considered myself, or there's thoughts from people who have spent more time looking at an organization that I
you're not.
have.
Yeah, you're not. You're doing more news than opinion. So you might
Yes.
not. Yeah. So you're not getting verbally. Is it verbally?
Verbal-ish.
Digitally abused. Like if because if you went on Twitter, like I asked you, who do you think is going to be in the World Series? You said Philly and Houston. If you went on Twitter and said, I think it's going to be Philly and Houston in the World Series, you'd get 1 million replies from people calling you an idiot.
Yeah, I'm already like I was on McAfee like an hour ago and
Yeah.
said that I think the Phillies are going to win the World Series, and ever since then,
There you,
I,
okay. See, I rest my case.
I
I can't.
I got a text from
Yeah.
a friend here while I was on with you. Oh wow, jinxing the Phillies! You will need a police detail if they don't win at all.
I can't believe you check your mentions. I'm gonna reply to you more often now on Twitter. I replied to you the other day when you broke the C.J. Abrams story because I love that story because I'm a degenerate gambler. But now did he?
I did not. I did not break that. By the way, I want to.
Well, you broke it to me. I saw
Jesse,
you.
Jesse. Well, that's and that's the interesting part of the job. Sometimes, even if I don't break stories, I break it to a lot of people.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's the first way that they're
Right.
seeing it. And
Well, you broke it to me. So he literally got busted because someone took a picture of him, right? Like that's how the Cubs found.
No.
Nationals found. Oh.
No, the picture was there was a picture of him, and I think it was I think I saw on the felt that it was at an MGM, and there's no MGM in Chicago,
Right.
So no, this was
Okay.
the All Cities Media Group, like CHGO, a reporter from CHGO got a tip that Abrams was there, put it out publicly, and once that's out publicly, all of a sudden the organization, like, how are you going to handle that?
So like I said, I saw the story from you, and I said I need to know if he was on a winning streak or a losing streak because
dude,
that would determine.
If you're at the table until 8 a.m., I think you know the answer to that one.
Yeah, pretty much the chase. I can't let you go without asking you about WWE because I know I've seen you on TV at Monday Night Raw in the background there. Whole life wrestling fan?
Grew up a big wrestling fan, watched it pretty regularly, like during the golden era. Like I was in college when Rock and Stone Cold were
the
at
Attitude
their
Era,
apex.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, my outgoing message, we used to have these things called answering machines.
Yes.
And my outgoing message was from The Rock because I had interviewed him as a sophomore. Syracuse didn't want a WWF at the time event on their campus because this was Attitude Era.
Right.
And it was like, you can't bring like this sort of prurient behavior onto a college campus. And so I wanted someone who was familiar with the Carrier Dome, and Dwayne Johnson played for Miami. Right. And he had played in the Carrier Dome before. So I went down to like the off-campus arena where they were doing a house show, and I interviewed The Rock. And at the end, I was like, hey, I know this is very unprofessional, but we have a shitty answering machine message. Is there any way that you could record something? I was like, what are your roommates' names? I was like, Jake and Danny. And so he pauses for a second. I hand him my recorder and he clicks it on and he goes, "This is The Rock, the people's champ from the WWF. You've reached Jeff, Jake, and Danny. So leave your name. It doesn't matter what your name is. So leave a message after the beep if you smell what The Rock is cooking." And even after Jake moved out after our junior year, that was still our message all the way through college.
This is one of the greatest things I've ever heard in my life. When you said The Rock was your outgoing message, in my head, I'm thinking you taped something off of the TV, one of his catchphrases. I didn't know you had him do it. I'm blown away right now. Do you still have that tape somewhere?
I do. It's funny because I don't have it like labeled as rock, but one thing I have been planning for my retirement, whenever that comes, is to get a little not a digital, but a little tape recorder, like a mini cassette recorder, and go back and listen through all of them, because I have, that's how I used to record my interviews too. Right. And so there are bound to be really cool things that I listen back to in the same way that I'll look back. Sometimes I'll look through my phone and say, do I remember what story this person is from? Or listen back to a conversation that has no context and say, what was this?
You should absolutely do that. You have to do that.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this. It was worth the wait because this was great. And appreciate you coming on and giving me so much time. I'm still blown away by the ending. I can't even think about the baseball playoffs, ESPN, Twitter. You know where to find them. I can't think about anything else but that story. So, listen, Jeff, really appreciate it.
Every good writer, Jimmy, likes to save the good kicker for the end.
Well, you certainly did.
If this was a good kicker, I feel like everybody knows me now as a newsbreaker. At my heart, I am a writer. And
between the story about The Rock and telling me that the Amazon numbers for the Yankees are very low, this you made my day. I'll be in a good mood for a long time now. So thank you very much, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Pleasure's mine, man. Thank you.
All right, joining me now, as he does every week for our Traina Thoughts segment from WFAN Radio in New York, SNY TV in New York, my buddy Sal Licata. Sal, how are you?
I'm great. We have a lot that we got to get to here.
First of all, I don't know about you. I'm completely flustered by the Vince McMahon doc because it's 6 parts. Netflix released all 6 parts on Wednesday. And when football starts, my time is limited to get in a documentary like that. I said to you when we texted, I said, I'm going to have to take a day off. I have to call in sick from work to basically watch the Vince McMahon doc, because already I'm seeing stuff on Twitter and I don't want to see stuff. It's like the line in Seinfeld. I want to go in fresh. Not
ideal timing for its release. Now, I like that they released all the episodes, although in this particular case, it wouldn't have been bad to have one at a time, because I cannot dedicate 6 hours to Vince McMahon, although I'm going to figure out a way to start. I mean, maybe the Mets get rained out tonight.
If the Mets, we're taping this on Wednesday, if the Mets get rained out tonight, that'll help a lot in terms of being able to watch that, because I can put the Yankees on a second TV.
Right.
So, yeah. Like last night, I had the Mets on
Thursday football, Friday, all right, maybe a couple. Will you watch a couple episodes Friday, or you get college football?
Well, it's college football, but Friday could be like a watch it and have the college football on a second TV.
Yeah, and then Saturday we both have problems, different problems. You have college football, I have my wife. I can't sit there and watch
You want to start right off the bat? Right off the bat, you want to start.
I'm saying I can't sit there and watch Vince McMahon unless he gets into it, which I doubt, for 4 hours. I don't think it's going to happen.
Your wife has legitimate beef from what I see, because just by following you on Instagram, were you at the Jet Patriot game?
Yes.
And then weren't you at the Met game the next night?
Yes.
Right. So you think you're going to watch college football on Saturday?
No, I played golf Saturday, actually.
What?
And then Sunday.
You don't even play golf. What is this shit?
I didn't really. I played 3 times this year, and now I played twice, and then I got invited again. It's you're right. It's ridiculous what's gone on here. My wife, I do owe her. I do.
Well, you may owe her, but she's not getting paid during football season.
Right.
She has to wait till February. You're lower in February.
Yeah, well, truth be told, it's not even just football season. We got baseball playoffs coming up. Like, there's going to be, assuming the Mets make it, the Yankees, we already know is in. Yankees next Saturday, game 1 of the division series locked in, October 5th. So I just tried to tell her, look, this is the busiest time of the year. After this, we'll rekindle.
How many times a year do you give that lecture?
Right.
It's the busiest time of the year. March. Oh, it's March Madness. It's the busiest time of the year. First week of the baseball season, it's March Madness. It's the first week of the football season. It's the busiest time of the year. Baseball play. It's the busiest time of the year. Oh my God. All right, we got a lot. There's a lot going on. So we got to watch the Vince McMahon doc. One thing I want to do from last week, we had talked about the return of Saturday night's main event, and I had talked about the twin referee storyline with the $1 million. And I got a couple of tweets from people saying, like, that didn't happen on Saturday night's main event. It happened on a Friday night show.
It was our main event.
Which is correct. But that Friday night show was a Saturday night's main event, like spinoff type of thing. So the Twitter police came at me. They got me with like the little technicality. All right. Well, another thing, right before we taped, I got a question on Twitter from mchuck16. He said, will this week's podcast address how insulting it is to everyone who, quote, auditioned to be the next Yankees radio voice only for Odyssey to bring John Sterling back for the postseason? Now, I don't want you to comment because you work for Odyssey and the fan, so I don't want to so I'm just going to give my 2 cents because I'm a Yankee fan here. I have zero problem with it for one reason and one reason only. There is no radio voice of the Yankees. If the Yankees at some point during the season would have said, Vinny Boombots is our radio guy, then Sterling swooping in would be. They never announced a permanent replacement. Every day there's a new radio guy. They rotate between Justin Shackle, Emmanuel Barbary, Ricky Ricardo. There's rumors it's going to be Dave Sims. So the Yankees don't have a radio voice. So I have zero problem with John Sterling swooping in here and doing the last week in the playoffs. If they had a radio voice, yeah, then it would be a little bit of a dick move, I guess. I don't know. But if there's no he's not screwing anyone over. What are they going to do? Rotate in the playoffs? That would even be in the playoffs. I want one voice. I don't need a rotation in the playoffs. So I don't care. So M. Chuck's not getting the answer he wanted, but that's my opinion.
Oh, well, let me just say that I agree with everything that you said. And also, let's just simplify it here. And I was thinking of you last night as I was driving home listening to the Yankee game. You, as a Yankee fan, have to be in heaven having John and Susan back together for the final week and then in the postseason. Like, it's no disrespect to the other guys who I'm personally friends with. I love Emmanuel. Justin Shackle's a great kid. Ricky Ricardo's a great dude. So I love all those guys. But John Sterling's John Sterling, and he hasn't officially been replaced. So why wouldn't any consumer of Yankees audio want to hear John Sterling back with Susan Waldman for the most important stretch of the year?
I don't see it as a problem in any way, shape, or form because no one has
excited were you to have them both?
They cried at one point. I was laughing out loud. They were talking about how it's the middle of the game and they're talking about how they don't know what day it is, they don't know what city they're in, and it was the old times. I was in heaven. All right, so Sterling. All right, we touched on your wife earlier, but this goes into other family, but did you see, I'm sure you watched the Chiefs-Falcons game on Sunday, because sometimes you're a Falcons fan, sometimes you're not. I still don't know where we are with this, but
yeah.
Did you watch the game Sunday night?
Remember, it was against Mets-Phillies.
Oh, okay.
So I did, but I didn't lock in the way that I would had I still kept my Falcon fan. But yes, I know what went on.
Did you see when NBC showed, so the Chiefs running back, Carson Steele filling in for Pachenko.
Yeah.
His sister got married that night.
Yes.
And they showed a shot of the sister's wedding with everyone watching the game.
Yeah.
If your brother is in the NFL, how do you schedule a wedding on a Sunday night when he's playing on a Sunday night, no less?
Right. Yeah.
Now, they sent out the save the dates a year ago. So that tells me they didn't think he had any chance to be in the NFL.
Why would you, if your brother watches the NFL, don't have a wedding on Sunday? Like, he doesn't need to potentially be playing.
Just if he watches it.
Yeah. If your brother is a fan of football and watches NFL football, don't have your wedding on a Sunday in the fall. You can do a Sunday, just don't.
You have a sister.
Yeah.
Did she get married during the football season?
She did.
Did you say anything to her?
Week 3. Jets Dolphins, 1 p.m.
Oh my God.
I forget the year, but I remember the week. Yeah, it was.
Did you make a comment to her like, what the hell are you doing?
She got away with it. It was fine. But in general, it's to my sister as well. Like, if your brother watches football, imagine playing in it. Like, there's no way if I were playing in the NFL, my sister would do that. That's just.
And then you have your wedding based on the shot that NBC showed. She has her wedding and there's 100 people standing in front of a TV.
Yeah, I mean, what are we doing here?
Exactly. What are we doing here? Speaking of what are we doing, do you know what's going on with Twitter and the block button?
Oh my God. Mercedes Monet, we had her on the show yesterday. She told me about this, but I don't know if it's accurate. She said that Elon Musk got rid of the block button.
Well, this is what, no. You can block someone, but that person can still see your tweets. They just can't engage with you. No.
I want to block them so they can't see my tweets. That's what I want. I don't care if they engage. I can ignore that. Right. I don't want them to see what I'm putting out there.
I'm with you 100%.
Oh my God. This has just it's ridiculous.
It's beyond ridiculous. Listen, I'm not going to be one of these people because everyone's like, oh, I'm done with Twitter. I'll never tweet. I'm on Threads. I'm not going to be one of those people. But I have to say, this would make me tweet less and be on it less.
I think I'm just going to now. Well, why would I block anybody then? I don't really care. Because if I'm not.
Because that'll stop them from tweeting at you.
Right. But my whole point of blocking certain people was so that they can't see my tweets because that's where they get frustrated.
Right.
But now there's no point to do it. So you might as well just unblock everybody and let them have at it. Just mute everybody.
I agree.
What's next? He's going to expose people who we mute? Like,
I cannot believe how, since he took ownership, every single thing he's done has made the site worse by a lot. Just a total idiot and horrible person. All right. It's time to read reviews for the month of September.
Okay.
Very disappointed in the amount of reviews. The podcast must not have been good this month. Just maybe, I don't know. I thought we had a good guest. We had Kirk Herbstreit. We had Scott Van Pelt. We had Mad Dog. But not a lot of reviews. So maybe I'm a shitty host. Maybe they were shitty episodes.
People just don't like doing anything. Like
it's hurtful.
You're asking them to write the review. It's a pain in the ass. People don't want to be bothered. Too much shit going on.
Oh, but they'll send tweets.
Well, that is true.
Okay. So we're going to read the reviews that we did get for September. And then we'll see what happens. All right, here we go. Big fan Stan. 5 stars. Thank you. Find a mute button. I love this show, so I'm giving it 5 stars. But Jimmy, don't you have a mute button to cover all the coughing and sniffling? If not, try SteamYard as your video platform. Appreciate the shows even when you see the weather. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I apologize. When I listened back to one of the episodes, I was out of control with the throat clearing. I didn't sneeze. It was throat clearing. I have very, very bad postnasal drip. I'm sorry. But I didn't realize until today when Jeff Passan just told me that I should just hit mute on Zoom, which I can do. So it'll be better. I promise. I think I just cleared my throat again. So yeah, I do apologize for the gross noises over the past month. All right. We do have another 5 stars from Jorge von Strauss. What a name. Love it. I think I've been listening to the show since Jimmy first took over from Richard Deitch. Over the years, I'd say the show has only improved. Jimmy always has interesting guests, though wrestling related isn't my thing. One might think sports media. Why should I listen to a podcast about that? I think anyone who's a sports fanatic should most definitely give this podcast a chance. They would not regret it. By far, my favorite part of the show is Jimmy's conversation with Sal. You can definitely tell they're very good friends, and that is how they speak to each other when the mics are off. Their talks always crack me up. How nice is Jorge von Strauss?
Great review right there. We love it. That's
so now
nice.
I'm gonna hit the mute button and clear my throat. Hang on.
Okay, I'll carry us here.
Did you hear anything?
No. Good job.
Okay, see, it just worked. Okay. I will say the only thing I wish people could hear us when we talk about the business, not on the podcast, but
the conversation that me, you, and Eddie Erickson had in my pool, those are the fun days.
We basically mentioned everyone in sports media.
Come on.
All right, we got Rosario, 5 stars. I've become a huge fan of the pod. Jimmy does a great job making you guests feel comfortable and draws out responses that I don't think other hosts achieve with the same guests. That's nice. I find sports media often more interesting than the actual sports being covered. I share Jimmy's affection for Curb Your Enthusiasm, The Sopranos, Howard Stern, and the WWE. I love the respect that Jimmy shows to the hardworking talent of the WWE. Keep the WWE interviews coming. By the way, why aren't the performers part of SAG? As a displaced New Yorker, I love listening to Jimmy and Sal talk about New York restaurants and other New York happenings. Keep up the outstanding work. Good luck with your NFL bets, Jimmy. Edit. I wrote this review a while ago, but wanted to add that I miss Sal's house hunting. But I also want to understand how commuting from New Jersey is significantly better than from Suffolk County. Please explain, Sal.
Good God. There is a lot there. I cannot believe that we think back to a year ago and my fall Saturdays were ruined by house hunting in New Jersey. Ruined. Like I'd have to get up at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning, my one day off, and drive an hour and a half to house hunts to no avail. Come all the way back.
Don't say to no avail. The people loved it.
Well, yeah, you guys got entertainment out of it. I hated it. It went on for months until February finally. So yeah, a year ago was not. Because I'm like, wow, this is great. Fall Saturdays, what are we going to do today? And last year, I remember that we were house hunting. The commute is significantly better. I don't think people on Long Island understand that New Jersey is so big that you could go to certain spots that are 25 miles, where I am roughly 25, let's say between 25 and 30 miles from the city, that you get there much quicker than you would on Long Island. And Long Island, by the way, 25, 30 miles from the city, the taxes are ridiculous. The space is smaller. So to me, it's the perfect balance.
So just break it down this way. Door to door, what was it in Suffolk? What is it in Jersey?
Now, in Suffolk, I was 50 miles. Okay? Small house, but, property fine, whatever. 50 miles out, it would take me roughly 2 hours. Roughly. Sometimes more, sometimes a little bit less, but roughly 2 hours. And I would say on average, probably over that. Now it's roughly an hour. When I am off SNY at 6:30, I am in my driveway by no later than 7:35. That is and I'm taking a PATH train to my car. It is such an easy commute. I just think more people should be open to it if you're having trouble commuting from Long Island.
All right. Doc Lou, Iowa, he's a regular reviewer. He says, he gave it 5 stars. The Bear. They don't call it a comedy. The Academy places them there due to being 30 minutes long. I have laughed a few times in 3 years. How can a show about trauma be a comedy? Great show, ridiculous categorization. Sal and I had discussed whether The Bear is a comedy because it wins the Emmy for Best Comedy. So he's saying it's not the show, it's the Academy, and it's because it's 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't like that explanation.
Still, it's stupid. By the way, remind me, I have 2 things that I want to tell you about what I've watched.
Did you finish The Bear season 3?
Yes, we're all caught up on The Bear.
I did not like that quote unquote cliffhanger.
Yeah, we couldn't understand that either.
Just tell us what the review is and stop playing the game.
Yeah, though it felt like the season one. Now somebody is saying that it's still season 3. It's just 2 parts of season 3. Still, I don't want to. You can't leave a cliffhanger like that.
That's what the Sopranos did in their final season. I didn't like that. But yeah, I did not like that. All right, 2 more reviews. SG Murthy, great podcast. I'm curious. You never talk about FS1 and their show changes. I know they don't get any ratings, but thoughts on those shows. I don't talk about FS1 for a few reasons. One, like you said, absolutely nobody watches any of their shows. B, I don't really have any. Well, let me be careful. Because I was going to say something. Let me say it differently. I don't think those shows are worthy of my time, to be honest with you. Now, I'm not talking about the new shows. I'm talking about everything from when they started to when they've made. Now, since they've made these changes, I don't know what's going on with these shows. So I'm not counting now, I guess this guy said, oh, what's my opinion of the new shows? I no one cares about FS1 during the day. So I can't put my energy into it. And I have a hard enough time watching the shows I watch. I'm not going to watch any of the shows on FS1. Maybe these shows are good compared to what the shows were that were on FS1, but I can't bring myself to do it. All right. The last one, Murphy Murph says, love the interviews, enjoy Sal, but at this point, mostly listen to hear if Jimmy ever finishes his sentence. I don't know what that means. So we're ending on a bad review. I don't know what that means.
If you ever finish the sentence?
Yeah.
No, I don't get that one either.
Me either. All right. But we appreciate 5 stars. So leave 5 stars. What are the shows you want to recommend before we wrap it?
No, just 2 things I want to say. One, on The Sopranos. I'm in the middle of a rewatch right now.
Yep.
I just finished it last night, Pine Barrens episode. And I have to admit that I did not, in like the previous 3 times I've watched it, I don't think I had as great an appreciation for it as I did watching it last night. Not only was it a great episode, it was funny. Like in my memory of it, it's like, oh yeah, they get caught out in the cold and they're out there in the sun. But when watching it back, I remembered how funny it was, and other stuff that happened in the episode, like Gloria throwing the London Broil, whatever.
That's
Tony. Like,
I'm blown away by this revelation that it took you to like a 4th rewatch. I don't understand that. I
don't either. I just maybe because since the first time I saw it, it got like, oh, the Pine Barrens, Barrens, and it's become such a huge episode. And my core memory with that was not the other stuff, the funny stuff, or that it was just being maybe frustrated by Paul and Chrissy not being able to find the freaking guy in the wood. Like, that was my initial watching that. Like, oh my God, what happened? This guy stole their car. And then that would be the secondary part. While it's a great episode and funny, like, how could they not pay that off eventually?
I'm glad they didn't. I like that. I don't know. I kind of like that you don't get what you want sometimes with that. Like, I didn't like it. Well, I don't know what happened, but I want to just say a few things about that because it's interesting you say that.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I did a Sopranos rewatch when COVID started. Now, in my head, I knew I loved the Pine Barrens episode. I knew it was hysterically funny, and I knew every line from Paulie and Chrissy. And there were 3 things, though, that had nothing to do with Paulie and Chrissy in the snow that were amazing. 1, the first scene of that episode, I think, or it's in the first 5 minutes. Paulie's getting a manicure when Tony calls him and says he's got to go get the money from the Russian. So just the thought of Paulie Walnuts is getting a manicure is tremendous.
Yeah.
2, when Gloria throws the steak at Tony, it's a London broil to be specific.
Yeah.
Gloria throws the London broil at Tony. Then he goes to Uncle Junior's house and he goes, "What are you eating, steak?"
What'd you eat?
And my third thing with that, and I don't think it resonates as much now because it doesn't really happen as much now. But if you think back then in the year it aired, Tony didn't have an iPhone. If it was all of the flip phones and the Motorola's, and his frustration in every scene with the bad service, that's how it used to be. People don't, now you get service everywhere. Service is always good. But back then when that show aired, I would have to look up the year. That we didn't have iPhones. We had those flip phones. And the service was shitty. So he's in Gloria's house. He's getting shitty reception. He goes outside. He's getting shitty. And he's in that. And I loved that part of it. It's a little thing. Also, in the documentary that just aired, which we've talked about a couple of times, how great is it when they say David Chase, or it might have been someone else, might have been one of the other producers, that in real life, Tony Sirico never wanted his hair messed up. Nobody from hair and makeup did Tony Sirico's hair. He only did his own hair. The only time they wanted it messed up was for Pine Barrens, and they didn't want to do it. He fought them on it, and he finally relented.
Yeah, there are so many great things. I'll admit I was behind the curve on this one, and like I said, probably coming from my core memories of initially being frustrated watching it, but it's a brilliant episode with so many things happening. Probably the funniest episode of the series, at least from my recollection, certainly watching it through. Like, I'm up to date now, almost at the end of season 3, and I have not laughed as much all through the episode as I did with that one.
That episode aired on May 6th, 2001.
All right. Have you watched the Menendez brothers thing?
I have not.
Are you interested in that at all?
It's interesting you say that. I had no interest in it at all. And now I see that Ryan Murphy, who made it, is getting all this backlash because I guess it really paints them in this horrific way. I mean, they killed their parents, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm interested now to see who's right, because the creator, Ryan Murphy, is getting a lot of shit about it not being fair, maybe, or the portrayal was off or something. So I want to maybe invest it. But how am I going to watch that if I got to watch Vince?
I know. Well, we just started that, my wife and I, over the weekend, and we're hooked on it. Now, I'm sure we have similar memories of the, like, I don't remember the exact story. I remember Letterman making him a punchline, whatever, the Menendez brothers. It was a thing back then.
Yeah. I got to say, it wasn't a thing for me. I think I used all my energy on OJ, and by the time the Menendez brothers came around, I wasn't interested. All I know is like, I think they killed their parents, and then I think maybe I heard they were abused, and that's why I don't know anything other than that.
Well, fair enough, but I do remember, I don't remember the details.
I know it was a big deal.
Yeah, enough to remember, the Menendez brothers, whatever happened with that? They killed their parents. Oh, how could these kids kill their parents? Maybe that was the extent of it. So I figured I could learn something watching this, and it's like beyond disturbing. I don't know what's accurate though, so I guess I gotta read up. I don't know if this is the true story. You almost feel bad for the kids more than, not almost, you do feel bad for the kids more than you do the parents.
Oh, that's interesting, because I was under the impression it was painting the kids in not
the first
as not sympathetic figures.
The first episode and a half, or maybe 2 episodes, yes. Like, I'll give you the example. My wife, I hate these kids, disgusting, blah, 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 blah. Nothing that she could hear would change her mind. By episode 3 or 4, I'm like, how about now? And she's like, well, now I can maybe understand why they did what they did. Like, it's that dark. Like, you start out hating their guts, and then you start feeling, holy shit, like some horrific things were happening. Maybe
I'll try. I don't know how, but I got to try in some way.
It's worth a watch.
Yeah. How many episodes?
I think there might be 6, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Before I let you go, how's the NFL wagering treating you?
Actually, very well. I've been disciplined. I like the idea. I like the idea of putting my money in as opposed to having the credit. I was doing it all those years,
illegally.
Well, you know what I mean. It's the only way to do it for a long time.
What are you using, DraftKings or FanDuel?
I use actually Fanatics, because when I signed up at the Fanatics Fest, they gave me like a $3,000.
Don't get me started on the Fanatics Fest.
Yeah, well, it was great for me. Anyway, I've been pretty good. I hit a Jets-Giants parlay last week. Hit the Giants money line. I've been disciplined. I've been pretty good.
That's good.
So I've survived through 3 weeks so far, which is nice. And I don't think I could really not survive unless I just go 8. But when you're putting your own money in, I'll put 100 in every Sunday morning and see how it plays out.
Oh, that's how we do it. Interesting. 100 in every Sunday morning.
Yeah, because then I could allocate, all right, 25 for a ridiculous parlay that brings me back to the old school betting tickets. And then I really love this game, so let me put 50 on this game and maybe, save some just in case I need to make a second half play or a live bet. That's basically how I've been doing it.
I'm really, really pissed off right now. I saw a great tweet yesterday. I should have saved it. I should have written it down. Of course I didn't, because I just see too much shit. But it was about how much money these places like DraftKings and FanDuel, like 80% of the money they make are from people betting parlays.
Yeah,
it's really the worst thing you could bet. You know what? I'll save it for next week. I'm going to look it up. We'll talk. We'll do a thing on the parlays next week.
Okay. All
right. Good seeing you. Are you going to be able to watch football Sunday? Locked in? No issues?
I think I'm actually going to go to the Jet game.
Jets Broncos. Okay.
Yeah, it's at 1 for work. Like, I'm going to go with a credential and maybe go in the locker room or whatever.
Oh, look at you, fancy Mr. Media person. All right.
We've been encouraged to do so.
Got it. Oh, show your face after you rip these people.
Yeah.
But you really, Robert Saleh. Yeah, you don't like him. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Have fun. We'll see you next week.
I'll talk to you later. All
right. Bye. All right. My many thanks to Jeff Passan. Really enjoyed that conversation. Got to make him a regular here on SI Media with Jimmy Traina. He was phenomenal. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And of course, my thanks to Sal Licata. If you enjoyed the episode, get onto Apple, subscribe to SI Media with Jimmy Traina, leave a review on Apple. It's greatly appreciated. And again, if you've missed any recent episodes, the list of guests who have come on for interviews has been outstanding. Brad Nessler from CBS, Kevin Clark from ESPN, Scott Van Pelt, Brian Curtis from The Ringer, Kirk Herbstreit, Chris Mad Dog Russo. If you missed any of those interviews, give them a listen. And again, please subscribe to SI Media with Jimmy Traina. All right. That wraps it up. We'll see you next week. Stay safe and take care.